Welcome to the Easy Super podcast. I'm Natalia Clack from Easy Super. One of the most common questions I receive is this: should my partner and I have one SMSF together, or should we each have our own? At first glance, having one fund together seems like the obvious choice. You share the costs, you manage one set of accounts, you invest together, you have your bucket of money and your partner have their bucket of money. Simple, right? Well, it's not always that simple. In fact, choosing it wrong can become one of the biggest headaches you've ever faced, especially if life doesn't go according to plan. Today, we will look at the advantages, disadvantages, and a situation where a joint SMSF makes perfect sense, and when having your own SMSF could save you thousands of dollars, countless hours of stress, and potentially a legal battle. So let's get into it. First, what is a joint SMSF? A joint SMSF simply means that two or more members belong to the same fund. In Australia, an SMSF can have up to 6 members. Most commonly, a joint SMSF is established by husband and wife, de facto couples, business partners, adult children with parents. The fund owns all the investments together. That could include investment properties, shares, ETFs, managed funds, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, gold and precious metals, or private debt. Every trustee is responsible for every decision made by the fund. That's important to understand. Even if your spouse looks after everything, you are responsible as well. Even you've never logged into the bank account, even if you don't understand investing, you still is responsible for running your own SMSF. Legally, you are still equally responsible. Many people don't realize that. The biggest advantage: low costs. Let's start with the obvious benefit. Running an SMSF costs money. There are accounting fees, audit fees, ATO supervisory levies, and ASIC fees. There are ITO lodgement requirements, investment strategy reviews, minutes, trustee documentation. With one joint SMSF, you're generally paying for one fund instead of two funds. If each person had their own SMSF, many of those costs would effectively double. That's why a joint SMSF is often more cost-effective. If you already make financial decisions together and have similar retirement goals, one fund can work very well. Another advantage is combining your super balances. Instead of having two smaller funds, you have one larger pool of money that can make certain investments much easier. For example, buying a commercial property, using a limited recourse borrowing arrangement, purchasing larger investment assets, diversifying across more investments, or even holding a larger Bitcoin allocation while still maintaining a diversified portfolio. Larger balances generally provide more investment options. But here's where problems begin. Money is emotional, retirement planning is emotional, investing is emotional, and people change. One spouse might love property, the other prefers shares. One wants Bitcoin, the other refuses to touch it. One wants to retire at 60, the other plans to work until 70. When you're in one SMSF, every major investment decision should be made together. Disagreements can quickly become difficult. We've seen funds where trustees stop speaking to each other, nothing gets signed, returns aren't lodged, audits are delayed, the fund becomes non-compliant. The investment itself isn't the problem, the relationship between the trustees is. If you're thinking about setting up an SMSF, we would like to help. At Easy Super, we don't just establish SMSF, we make sure you understand how they work. We take the time to explain your options, help you choose the right structure for your circumstances, and guide you through every step of the process. We also give our clients access to our SMSF Power Masterclass, where you will learn everything you need to know about running SMSF with confidence, from contributions and pensions to property, crypto, compliance, and avoiding costly mistakes. Because the more you understand your SMSF, the better decisions you'll make for your retirement. Let's talk about what happens if the relationship breaks down. This is the part most people never think about. Nobody starts a relationship expecting it to end. But unfortunately, sometimes it does. When a couple separates, a joint SMSF can become very complicated. Who controls the bank account? Who signs the documents? Who decides where to sell investments or not? What happens to the property? What if the fund owns crypto? What if one trustee simply refuses to cooperate? Until the superannuation interests are divided under the family law, both trustees generally continue to have responsibilities for the fund. In some situations, this can delay decisions and increase costs while the separation is being resolved. The SMSF itself doesn't automatically split because the relationship has ended. The fund still needs to be managed properly. This is one of the reasons professional advice during a separation is so important. Let's look at another scenario. Imagine one member passes away. What happens to the SMSF? That depends on several factors, including the trust deed, the trustee structure, any binding death benefit nominations, any reversionary pensions, and the overall estate plan. Many people assume their super automatically goes to their spouse or children. That isn't always the case. A properly structured estate plan can make administration much smoother and reduce the likelihood of disputes. This is something many people overlook until it's too late. So, when does a solo SMSF make sense? There isn't one answer for everyone. But a solo SMSF may be worth considering if you have very different investment preferences and different attitudes towards risk. If you want complete control over investment decisions. If you are entering a second marriage and want to keep retirement savings separate. If your estate planning is more complex. If you expect substantial inheritances or family wealth that you prefer to manage independently. Or if you simply value making your own decisions without needing another trustee's agreement. Of course, you will usually pay the costs of running your own fund, so it's important to weigh those additional expenses against the benefits. And when is a joint SMSF usually a good option? For many couples, a joint SMSF is still an excellent choice, especially when you have similar retirement goals, when you have similar risk appetite, when you trust each other completely, when you make financial decisions together, when you want to share administration costs, or when you intend to build wealth together over the long term. Many successful SMSFs in Australia are run this way. The key is making sure the structure suits your circumstances, not simply choosing what everyone else does. There is no best option, only the option that's best for you. A joint SMSF can reduce costs and make investing easier. A solo SMSF can provide greater independence and flexibility. The right decision depends on your relationships, your investment objectives, your estate planning, and your long-term goals. It's much easier to choose the right structure at the beginning than to restructure everything years later. If you're thinking about setting up a SMSF or you're wondering whether your current structure is still the right one, we would love to help. Book a consultation with Easy Super team and we will explain your options in plain English, answer your questions about the SMSFs and the advantages and disadvantages of having one SMSF together with other parties. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to the Easy Super podcast. Every second week, we share practical SMSF strategies, common mistakes to avoid, and opportunities that could help you build a stronger retirement. I'm Natalia Clack from Easy Super. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.